Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Prepping by Faith, and today we are going to talk about inflation across the nations. Everyone knows that inflation is continuing to rise in the United States, and it is being reported that the CPI has risen by 7.9% for the month of February, the highest increase in 40 years. But what I wanted to talk about today is the rise in inflation across the world. There are articles discussing a rise in inflation in nearly every country you can think of. We already know the current conflict is causing a drastic increase in prices for those in Russia and Ukraine. Prices in Russia have surged so much in the past 2 weeks that they have surpassed what the government had anticipated for the entire year. Shoppers have reported difficulties finding staples like sugar, which has risen 15% in the last 11 days. Prices for over-the-counter medicines have also risen sharply since Moscow invaded Ukraine, as have imported goods and products that rely on foreign parts, such as televisions, smartphones, and cars, which have all become at least 10% more expensive over the last 2 weeks. They are anticipating as high as 20% inflation for the year and double-digit interest rates at least until the end of 2023. It's obvious that the conflict between Russia and Ukraine will impact the rest of the world. From the inability of Ukraine to manage their wheat fields, which account for about 8% of the world's exports, and Russia ceasing exports to unfriendly countries at 20% of the world's exports, this alone will have a significant impact on food inflation. In addition to wheat, Ukraine exports 13% of the world's corn, with the bulk of that being transported to China and the EU. We also know that China has been stockpiling corn and grains. Their proclaimed goal is to stockpile 70% of the global reserves of corn and 50% of the world's supply of wheat. Now, we can speculate many reasons as to why this is, but ultimately it doesn't matter. This is happening in real time, and this action alone would drive up the prices of these goods, which are used in so many of our products. We were always going to see a rise in food prices because of this action alone, but this added with the Russian-Ukrainian conflict and crop failures only exacerbates this situation. Economists have blamed everything from effects of the current health crisis on the global supply chain to increases in fuel costs due to the current conflict as the primary culprits. Whatever the case may be, countries across the globe are reporting higher inflation. Canada's inflation rate rose to a new multi-decade high of 5.7% last month. Mexico is reporting a 12-month inflation rate of 7.22% as of the end of January. Even Japan, who has lower inflation than a large percentage of the world, has seen an increase of 2.67% in March, the highest since comparable data became available in 2014. The UK is predicting a 7.9% increase for April. Germany has seen a 5% increase as of the end of February. South Korea is reporting a near-decade high for the month of February at 3.7%. Italy's inflation rate has reached 4.8%, the highest in 26 years. French workers are striking over inflation and worker pay as they have seen an increase of 4% inflation. They are citing a 15 to 20% reduction in their spending power. This list continues. Greece's annual inflation rate jumped to 6.2% in January. Namibia's inflation rate has increased by 4.5% in February. Nigeria's inflation rate has risen to 15.7% in February, and Turkey's inflation rate has hit a new 20-year high at a whopping 54%. We are also seeing the global response of rate hikes to compensate for this. We know that the Fed has announced a rate hike of 0.25%, with 11 rate hikes planned through 2023. Brazil has already hiked its rates for the 9th straight time. They are sitting at a 10.5% annual inflation rate. The massive hikes have yet to substantially bring down inflation, and I have little faith that the strategy will work in our own country. Rate hikes are thought to reduce inflation by curbing spending. However, when the cost of goods that you need in order to exist are the items inflating to ridiculous proportions, like your food, your heating sources, your oil to get back and forth to work, The only thing they are going to do is inflict pain on people that have no choice but to continue purchasing these items. If anyone figures out how we can continue to live without food, clothing, heat, power, and gasoline, please let me know. I'm all ears. The other component of inflation is that when it isn't relegated to one particular country, and it is a global problem, as we are seeing right now, the pain will continue to get spread around. Consider it a domino effect, where as the cost of imports increase, those increases are then passed on to, you guessed it, us, the consumers. Now, I highly doubt the majority of us are still spending frivolously on expensive electronics and making large purchases like homes and vehicles at this point. So I'm at a loss as to how these anticipated rate hikes will do anything to really make a dent in the inflation. Inflation and interest rates affect imports and exports primarily through their influence on the exchange rate. Higher inflation typically leads to higher interest rates, and whether this results in a stronger or weaker currency is unclear, according to Investopedia. It seems to me that the countries who will fare the best will be the ones who manufacture the majority of their goods, who can grow their own food, and who can be most self-sufficient through this crisis. This sounds a lot like us in the prepper community, doesn't it? So the only advice I can give you is continue to prepare to the best of your ability. Continue to put food away, yes, but also anything else you will need in the next couple of years. If you have children, focus on getting them the next sizes and clothing and shoes put up. It doesn't have to be anything fancy either. Grab t-shirts and pants in the clearance section. Get some items through thrift stores. You can even pick up some good, gently used items from garage sales. Whatever you need to do to make it work, I suggest doing it now. A lot of times there's even people that give clothing away for free in your neighborhood. You just have to be on the lookout for it. We're all going to have to become as resourceful and independent from this broken system as possible. One of my goals this year is to start growing food. If all I can do is throw some things in some grow bags, I'm going to do it. I want to start gaining some experience now, so in case it starts getting even worse, I've already started learning from my failed attempts. We can never go wrong learning a new skill. I believe it is our skills that is ultimately going to help save us in an SHTF, whether it's learning to repair things, gardening, canning, preserving food, knowing how to sew, whatever it is, it will help carry us through. Inflation appears to be here to stay with no end in sight. The other thing I want to encourage you to do is pray. God told us He would feed us even in famine. They shall not be ashamed in the evil time, and in the days of famine they shall be satisfied. Psalm 37:19. We need to do all we can to stay close to God so He can direct our paths and He can show us what we need to do to prepare. If you have learned something from this video today, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Remember to pray, prep, and put God first. God bless.